Business Council meeting this morning. I'm the chairman of our board for the Local Business Council, and looking out, Mark Ryan's here. Jim Murphy, John Mannion from South Shore Bank is here in the building somewhere. They're all, I don't even see them. Wave, there you are. And they work with me on just an executive committee on what we like to do with the Business Council. In what we are is we're an offshoot of the South Shore Chamber, so we are allowed to get in a little deeper in some of the local issues, the local businesses, and it's worked out very well. We've had an opportunity to influence some different projects, different approaches in town, and I think we've got a pretty nice track record. In particular, up this end of town, we've been involved in projects which you folks are seeing outside as you go along Derby Street. Also, on the other side of town, with the Hingham shipyard, we've been involved in some early developments there that led to a lot of zoning changes and changes locally that allowed for that type of business development. So as you go around town, some folks I've met this morning are new to town, have positions with businesses that have come into town. A lot of the infrastructure and a lot of the changes, or what you see there today, we were instrumental in working with government officials, other business officials. So we find this to be a very worthwhile group to be located or affiliated with. We've got Eric Dykeman, who's here, right there. Anyone who is interested in doing more either with us or with the Chamber. Eric's the liaison from the Chamber of Commerce, so he's the person that all of the business councils talk to when they want to get things done, put things together. You may know that the South Shore Chamber now, for years, they were in Quincy, years and years in Quincy, and now they're down in Rockland, down across from where the Home Depot is. So that move alone, to me, the way that I see it, should be taken as just kind of a very explicit message of where they're seeing a lot of the commerce on the South Shore to now be centered more along the spine of Route 3. And we're seeing that here in Hingham. Certainly, we are blessed with just the infrastructure for the connection to Route 3. It's interesting locally. Here we are, beautiful bedroom community, beautiful architecture. It's a great place to live. But as time goes forward, whether it's the early investment in this, what was an industrial park, which is now a business park, you get to take a look at what the benefits have been conferred to Hingham actually are today in real life. And certainly the exit 15 interchange has been huge. It allows for a concentration of nice, clean businesses, but without having to bring a lot of traffic through the center of town. So we've got a lot of advantages, and one of the goals of this group is to work with each other, work with other businesses, work with the town and town officials to be able to make that happen, be developed, be something that fits with the town, fits with the goals of the town, the infrastructure of the town, and that's a lot of what we've been about lately. With that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, I'll introduce myself again. My name's Jeff Toccio. I'm a lawyer, and our offices are over at 175 Derby Street, right across the street here. And I do mostly just real estate, things of that nature. So we've been doing this now for, probably 7-8 years, us together, and we've got a nice course. So I'm happy to introduce them. What I'll ask is if we can have room introductions. I'm going to ask if we could start with you two folks, swing in this way, and we'll see if we can get through everybody. Thanks. Nice and loud.
My name's Emily Pott, and I work for Curtis Management right on today on Mason Street.
Emily?
My first chamber event.
Excellent. Well, Brian Curtis was a tremendous force in the chamber. So.
Yeah, he was my father.
Oh, great guy.
My name is Carolyn Kennedy, and I work with Emily, and I also work with and I'm now a new neighbor from Rockland. I work with the Norwell Company Theater, and I'm the general manager.
Excellent. Thank you.
John McNulty. I work right across the street at 20 Pond Park. I'm a real estate attorney. I do residential closings, and I work for attorney Joe
Thank you.
Jim Bristol, Bristol Brothers Development.
Jim Bristol. JF Price Company in Weymouth.
Thank you, Peter.
Pete Brown from Campanelli, the proud builders of the South Shore Hospital building, the orthopedic building up right on the corner.
Gabe Crocker with CHA Consulting in Norwell, civil engineer focused on land development, design and permitting on the South Shore.
Matt Brzezowskis, Interstate Financial Group. We focus on helping small businesses grow with funding.
Matt, thank you.
John Manning, South Shore Bank.
Eric Dyckman, South Shore Chamber of Commerce. Buzz Constable, A.W. Perry, and I got to correct a few things. First of all, we really appreciate Camp building the A.W. Perry building at Two Pond Park, which is only leased by the South Shore Hospital. Secondly, we're really proud to have the South Shore Chamber in 1050 Hingham Street. It may be somewhere near the Home Depot, but it's right near the new Gallery BMW Mini dealership. And we are looking forward to helping convert the park to more of a business park in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, Buzz Constable.
And he's got this Italian jacket as well.
He expects.
So I stand affectionately corrected.
Thank you, Peter.
Please.
Sharon Norman, William Ravis Real Estate. I work in the Hingham office.
Thank you, Sharon. Tom?
Tom Silva, General Manager of Walville Village, Hingham, in Boston, Walville, and into needed parking, as Jeff mentioned.
Yes, indeed. Down to the new Volvo down on
3A next to the shipyard.
Lincoln Street.
425 Hingham.
That's right.
Not that you know about it.
Patty Kelly, I manage Eileen Fisher in Derby Street.
And
Rob McKellar with Duncan McKellar Insurance Agency.
Vicki Quinn, commercial loan officer with South Shore Bank.
Vicki?
Jim Murphy, the Hingham Business Council, and Tracy Environmental. I do environmental consulting.
Mark Ross, Ross Law LLC. I'm a business lawyer that helps small to medium-sized businesses.
Thanks.
Tony Schmergleo, a Hingham resident, president of GT Riley and Company. We're a CPA firm. Do a lot of variety of businesses, nonprofit organizations, and financial institutions.
Tony?
Gail Conley, I'm with South Shore Bank, business development officer.
Thanks, Gail.
Jim Luongo, also with South Shore Bank, retail manager.
Bill Hamilton, General Manager of Derby Street Shops. I'm Andrew Manning, with Development Manager for WS Development, which owns and operates Derby Street Shops.
Mark?
I'm Mark Ryan, I'm a financial advisor, and also at 175 Derby Street.
Good morning, I'm Diana Bennett, and I'm an ambassador with the South Shore Chamber, and I'm with Acela Construction Managers, and we are currently doing the restoration renovation project for Old Derby Academy and the Hingham Heritage Museum.
All right. And we're at HCAM right now, and Eric Dresser's here, and I'm going to ask Eric to say a few words, please. Great. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you everyone for joining us. This is our new news set that we're standing in front of here, so it's our unveiling of that. But the space that we're in, we've been here since March of 2012, and so everything here has been very temporary as we kind of initially, the curtains you see around you were all hanging from zip ties, and everything was 6 months at a time. We've recently just renewed our lease with A.W. Perry, and we're going to be here for at least another 3 years. And we're probably going to be going through this wall, hoping to get our final bids on that tomorrow and expand and be able to do more of what we do. We hope that you guys are already watching here in town. We try to have a pretty active presence through shows like our Hingham Happenings News Magazine show that gets around to all sorts of events around town. We do that once monthly. It's usually 4 to 7 events or segments from around the town. We've got our Getting to Know show, which is a more in-depth half-an-hour look at an organization or a topic or initiative in town. Of course, you may have also probably seen any of our myriad of government coverage on our government channel. And we do have 3 channels that we program: our public, educational, and government, and the educational is the one that I haven't touched on yet. And we've just last year really taken off with that and have a ton of educational programming. So depending whether or not you have Comcast or Verizon at home says which channel number you'll be watching. I won't try to spout off all 6 channel numbers, but I encourage you to grab a flyer or a card on your way out so you have that information if you don't already know it. And we hope you'll tune in, and again, thank you for coming today.
Can people get involved?
Absolutely, thank you very much. This is a membership organization. We have free membership for people to come in and show their support. In fact, we're actually just about to be going up for renewal of our contract. So the way that we work is that we're funded through an agreement that the town has that allows Comcast and Verizon to come into town and provide you cable service. In order for them to come here, what they try to do is some money is earmarked to fund situations like this and opportunities like this, so that the communication system is not just a one-way broadcaster speaking at you, but there's a chance for you to come in here and produce your own content, become a member, create programming, obviously as well as watching that local content. So we do encourage people to come in. You can do your own show on any topic that you should choose. We have training that you can take, whether that's camera operating or audio, or we even have social media classes and web, entry-level, not web design, but like WordPress and blogging and things like that. So, anybody that wants to get involved or has a kind of technical or media type of itch and thinks it's something that might be interesting, again, as I mentioned, the membership is free, and then we do have a premium membership, which actually causes those training classes to become free if someone takes advantage of the premium membership. So, again, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Eric.
You bet.
Yeah, and again, thank you to HCAM. For folks watching on TV who can't see this space, it's extremely impressive, and I know they were looking for a new home for some time, and this space is just it just works out really well. So hopefully people can get involved with that. Our guest today is Paul Gannon. Paul is currently a selectman for the town of Hingham. He was elected back in 2014. What we typically do here is we ask a new selectman to come in, or a selectman who's been seated for some time, to speak with us, give an idea of what they're working on, what their interests are, what they foresee for different factions of the town, or just what their involvement or interests are in the town. What we do is we wait a while for the person to have the seat. We don't like to just have newly elected people come in who haven't had the opportunity to get some seasoning and some experience there and be able to relate some of what they're working on and what may actually be in the pipeline. Paul Gannon is a local Hingham resident. I've been accused of giving away too much of the speech in my introductions, so I won't do that, but he's an attorney. He's a former assistant district attorney for Suffolk County, and going through his bio, I will tell you that I see a certain interest in him, and if I were to sum it up, it's an interest in community and making lives better, and he can talk more specifically about what his involvement has been, but it's been consistent, it's been over the years, and I think that's pretty impressive. So with that, Paul Gannon, if I would, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jeff, and thank Jeff for all the work he does for the group, because obviously a lot of it you don't see, but his reputation precedes him. He does a great job, and we're lucky to have you. And Eric, I want to thank you as well. We're fortunate to have you running such a smooth operation here, and we appreciate it. And whatever the show, whatever the programming, it doesn't always have to be the selectmen's meetings, but you do a great job. I want to thank you as well. So what I want to do is, when I talked to Jeff, something jumped out at me right away when I was thinking about coming here. Some of you I've met, some of you I may have said hello to, and there are a number of people I haven't met. And I realized pretty quickly that, except for a few instances, that the selectmen, I don't think we really get to know you folks that well, and I'd like to change that. I think it's important for me when a project or a proposal is coming to me, that I know the people involved, so I have a certain comfort level. Because as you know, it's a balance between the business community and the neighbors. And I think to accomplish anything in this town and in most places, you need to have that balance. And so I want to be able to meet with you folks more regularly. And obviously, I don't want to be every week, but if there's something coming up, like I was at an event last night at South Shore Bank, it was nice just to get there and get to know some folks, So whatever the format, whatever the venue, I would like to be able to come. I'm not one of those people that wants to sit back and just, get an email from somebody or a memo or even hear it third hand from somebody in my office. I would like to be there and to get to know what you're all about and what your projects are. I just want to say that up front so that it's clear. And if that's a change of the way things work, I'm happy to be part of that as well, because we do have a great group. Paul Haley has been involved in the town, in my chairman for many, many years, so he knows the operation well. And Mary Power, I will tell you that she could break the mold, because she's been so involved and so active with advisory and everything else that she could probably step in, next month at the next quarterly meeting and tell you more than I could ever pretend to tell you. So it might be helpful if I tell you a little bit about me. I'm proud to say that I grew up in South Boston, and I attended schools in the Boston area, Don Bosco, and then I went down to Providence College and graduated from there. And then I went to law school down at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. I had the privilege of working for Congressman Joe Moakley as an intern there. And not only was he my congressman and my neighbor in South Boston, but the good news, or it's more of an aside, I was his paper boy when I was probably 12 years old, delivering newspapers on Columbia Road in South Boston. So life sometimes comes full circle. I learned a lot from a lot of people growing up in South Boston, not the least of which was Joe Moakley. And as you can imagine, growing up in South Boston, you have a bit of interest in politics. It tends to be in your blood. And I think I got it from my grandmother. She used to talk to me about Billy Bulger and Johnny Powers and a bunch of names that probably you don't know too familiar with, but they were there when I was a young boy. So what happened was I came back from law school, and I was fortunate enough to be an assistant district attorney under Newman Flanagan in Suffolk County. I learned a lot. I learned a whole lot, not only about trying a case, but how to deal with people and how to look at the issues that were underneath the surface out there in communities, whether it be drugs or otherwise. And there were, obviously we wanted to be very tough on crime, but we also wanted to try to help communities and help people in need. And that kind of came back to me later in life, and I'll tell you in a second how it did. And when I was there, I took an interest in running for office. And I have this, I don't know if it's a good trait or a bad trait, but I tend to be the guy that likes to go against the grain a little bit. I'm the guy who likes to go up against the favorite. I'm the guy who likes to take chances, and you only live once in life, as my children tell me all the time. And I wound up running for state representative in 1990, and nobody gave me a chance, and I won. I won the seat, and I served several terms there. And one of the things I learned there was how to get things done for communities, and there was probably not enough time today to tell you some of the things I picked up there. But when I left the legislature, I still had politics in my blood. My wife told me, I think it was 8 years ago last week, that we were moving to Hingham. And so it was just a matter of when. And I did love my town, and I still do, but I tell you what, when I came here, the transition was so smooth that I absolutely love where I am. And I loved it almost from the start. And I wanted to become involved, so I did get involved with youth sports. My children have two beautiful daughters. One is a freshman at Providence now. And I tell you, I met so many wonderful people on the way, and I was very fulfilled at that point in time. And then, of course, as time goes on, I basically said to myself, all right, what else can I do? And I wound up getting involved in the Industrial Development Committee with Sue Sullivan, and I met some of you folks here, and I became aware of many of the projects that were in maybe the infant stages and have progressed a little bit. And also, as Jeff said, the interstate with the Department of Transportation at Exit 15, we were at that stage where we were looking for funding to get it done. And I know we're progressing with that. And I think, as we all know, that even if we get that into fruition, we're going to have bigger issues in that area, because as Buzz said, and I know the other folks, Jim Bristol, everybody, there's so many things in the pipeline, there's so many things being proposed, that we have to keep working together with government and business to make sure that we we protect the town and also make things more efficient for everybody. So, and I don't want to be too long-winded about it, but I'm trying to tell you a little bit about me. So I spent a little time in that committee, decided I want to do a little bit more, and I ran for a school committee. My children were in the school. It seemed to me like a good fit. There really wasn't a lot of interest beyond maybe there were 2 seats and there were 3 people, so my chances weren't too bad. And I wound up getting a seat on that committee, and boy, did I learn a lot. And it was good for me because of being involved in the town and being fairly new in the town to learn how it all worked. But I also saw that how we interacted with government. And to fast forward a little bit, I decided maybe a year and a half into my position to give it a go for selectmen. And I said to myself, what's the worst that's going to happen? I don't win. I'm on the school committee. Life is good. Life goes on. Well, I was fortunate, and I mean this, fortunate to be able to, I got in very late in the game, in the race, and I was fortunate to win. It was a close election and a very good man that I was running against, and it was a very, kept it at a very high level of integrity, and I work with the gentleman today. But it was fantastic to be able to see how government works, to be in one of the 3 selectmen in town. So that's kind of where I am, and that's how I got here. And just maybe for full disclosure, so you know, and maybe it's a good thing, I want you to know that typical fashion for me, I am now a candidate for the state Senate seat, and I say this respectfully because to me it doesn't really matter who's the opponent. There's a mayor's race in November, and I don't know who's going to win that race. But my goal is to put all the tools and the experiences and the fire I have in my belly to be able to do things for this community and the district on a state level. So just so you know, if Bob Hedlund wins, there'll be a special election. If Sue Kay wins, we don't know what's going to happen down the road, but I'm a candidate either way. And I just want you to know that. Obviously, some of you folks are in the Hingham, Weymouth, Norwell communities, all in my district. So any event, so today we were talking about some issues, and I know Jeff and I communicated yesterday. Part of this thing is for you to get to know me, and I hope you have some questions for me, and hopefully I have answers for you, obviously. But if I don't have a specific response, I will get it back to you because I do want to have this relationship grow. This isn't something where I came today and I don't talk to you guys for 6 months or 9 months. I want you to keep reaching out to us. I think it's important as much as you reach out to the town, to the proper channels to get relief or to get your projects moving forward. You get to know all of us. The only downside of this whole thing, and I mean this, it's unfortunate, is you cannot meet with all the selectmen together. There's a thing called open meeting law. So unless we post a meeting, it would be great if we could all sit in a room together and talk. But feel free, and I know my colleagues probably feel the same. We want you to reach out to us and talk because there's a lot of things going on in Hingham. So one of the issues, and I'm going to take questions, I guess, in a minute if it's okay, is one of the things that jumped out at me, and Jeff and I were talking about, is the tax structure. And I think you'll know that as businesses, I'm sure you're very interested in whether the split tax issue is going to change. And I know from my experience and the experience of the board, we're comfortable with the way it is now. Obviously, I assume you are as well. But I just want you to know that we have already addressed that issue previously, and if it comes up again, I anticipate us looking at it in the same way. I can't speak for my 2 colleagues, but we are here to promote business. We had to work with you all, and obviously we're very much in favor of reasonable development in the community. We have a South Hingham working group, and I will tell you that they do a great job. I try to stay plugged in. I'm not really allowed to participate at the meetings because of open meeting law, but I have attended the meetings, and I will continue to attend some. So I don't know if you have any questions.
What's going on with the Settles Glass in downtown Hingham? That whole area, and it seems like a great place to build something, and it's just nothing has happened there for years. Just wonder what's going on.
Well, there are projects going in that area, but Settles Glass has not come across my desk. Nobody has, as far as I understand it, is told me what the project is. But I will say, now we're talking about downtown, and I don't know if it's affect any of you folks, but I have been getting a lot of complaints lately about the sewer hookups. I understand there's a one-time hookup fee that, in my understanding, is some of the businesses downtown, we're trying to promote businesses coming downtown, have paid already, and then when a new business comes in, they're being charged that again. I'm told that it's an appeal to the Board of Selectmen. I'm not sure of the process. I've never had one come across my desk. But I want you to know that I'll look into it, and my sense is I don't want to penalize or tax a small business in town and try to possibly drive them away or maybe intimidate them into not coming into town. So I would be in favor of waiving any subsequent fees. I mean, it seems to make sense why pay double. But I don't know if you or any of you have that experience, but it's been coming to my attention. I will look into it. I apologize, but nothing has been brought to my attention.
Paul, what's the current status if, on the Derby Street corridor? I know that there are different design levels, et cetera. Has that come before you folks yet on what's happening as far as the progress over at the Cloverleaf, say, for example, in front of Chambers. I know that the engineering department's been working with Mass DOT. Has that raised to the level yet to the Selectman's office?
If my memory is correct, we did have a presentation several months ago, and it might have been 6 months ago, where we were trying to get some feedback from the community as well. Since that time, nobody has come back to us. I know they're working on it. I assume the South Hingham Working Group is working. I know Paul Healy's been very involved in that. So, yeah, I think we're waiting for some final designs.
Thanks. Actually, I can give you an update because the South Hingham Working Group is doing a really good job of looking at the needs of the neighbors and the both residential and business. And recently, with respect to the MassDOT plans, Ted Alexiotis hit up the Bristols and A.W. Perry to make a small contribution matched by the town and I think by WS as well to do a new traffic study that will help convince MassDOT that they ought to do the Derby Street improvements the way Roger Fernandez wants to do it. So that's coming up. It's probably going to come in this fall, and you'll be reported. I'm sure it'll be reported to you. That really has to do a little bit with my question. Obviously, the infrastructure, particularly in South Hingham, but Derby Street shops, and the potential new development, both the Bristols and the changes that will happen to the South Shore Park, need water, sewer, traffic we've looked at. Struck by the success of the sort of Phoenix-like renewal of Southfield. You know, they're getting a lot of action, they're getting a lot of state attention, they've gotten a lot of state infrastructure money, and the developments that are here, wonderful acreage on both sides of Route 3, are getting no state attention. Water and sewer, maybe you could brief us briefly on the Aquarian, and anything. I think sewer's a little early, but any feedback at all. I think this does affect not only development, but it does affect the few thousand workers that are in the South Shore Park today.
Well, thanks, but probably first, and it's going to be a short answer, is on Aquarian. I get asked that question quite often. It's in the judge's hands, and I know there's some lawyers in here, and we all understand that sometimes judges take quite a while to make a decision. So if I guess with Aquarian is, once we get a number from the judge, if we do, or a formula that we actually can put a number together, it has to go to town meeting. There could be appeals. I have no idea where it will end and whether the town will accept it. That's number one. And I'd probably, regardless of what they do, I think the bigger issues are, if you're comparing it to Southfield, I'd see that a little more as a unique setup because it's kind of self-contained in there. But I will tell you this, and you'll understand why I can't probably say a lot more, is we meet with real estate issues and proposals occasionally in executive session. So we're not really able to talk in any detail about what we're doing and what we're looking at. But I will say that we have certainly, and I'm sure you and many other people have raised the issue to Ted and to our office. We are looking very closely at trying creative ways to be able to come up with a solution so that we can grow and we can also be sustainable with sewer and water in South Hingham and throughout the town.
Does it make sense for you to think about having one?
Well, it always makes sense to have long-term goals or visions, right? I think we call them goals. And what we do every year, and we've already done it, is we set up goals for the immediate year. And I don't know why they don't necessarily, I think maybe practically speaking, it makes sense to just, what can we accomplish in the next year? I know we do have discussions about down the road, and a lot of it's based on finance. So, like where are we in 5 years and where are we going to be in 10 years? But in terms of goals, in terms of, say development in South Hingham, we don't have that on paper anywhere. We do speak about it, and we do in executive session and otherwise about what we think we'd like to be able to have down there, and there's probably a pretty long list of things, including a fire station, as people keep telling me they want, and I'm in favor, but not everybody is, because we want to be able to protect all this development, all the community we have in South Hingham, because I don't want to get off topic a little bit, but I think 1964 was the last time they had a fire station built in Hingham, and exponentially development in South Hingham, both business and residential, I'm concerned about that. So there are many things that we're trying to do, and I think every community is the same, by the way. I don't think it's just Hingham. Sometimes things move slowly. And there's all kinds of review and regulation on these things, and there's always the question of how do you pay for it. So, we're always talking about that stuff, but, we usually have the written goals and visions on a yearly basis.
Paul, several years ago, it's on?
Yep.
This forum was the Business Council had the stakeholders for the waterfront area. So we had your predecessors as the selectmen attend, and some of the people who had come forward with initiatives that they'd look to put in. Nothing really happened with that I've seen. Every once in a while it pops up in the press. Could you give us an indication of, because it seems like it's repercolating?
When you say initiatives, could you tell me what initiatives?
On the waterfront, they were trying and figure out how to blend it, where they would track opportunities where boaters would stop, they will get to the town, boardwalks, those kinds of things.
All right, so, and as you can imagine, when this discussion took place previous to my being in position, I don't know every detail, but I know that it's an ongoing discussion. So I will tell you that last year, at our town administrator's recommendation, we looked at purchasing some land on the water for possible, not only marina, but also some business development. I know that in the last year or so, they're in the, and again, I'm not saying this is a great idea or a bad idea, I'm just telling you what, there had some type of development in terms of maybe access, in terms of there's a bridge being built. I wasn't part of that initial discussion. The hope is that it will bring more foot traffic on there. There is, I would say there's very little discussion about building up the waterfront, at least into my ears, in terms of business development. I think that it is out there. I think that people are discussing it either privately or, but it hasn't come to me and it hasn't come to the board. I will say that, and I'm completely in favor, but this isn't business development. The Lincoln Maritime Center, if you know what that is, it's a gem. It's a rowing and sailing program down there. We have a town meeting. I shouldn't say we, but we approved it. Is voted to put a long-term lease together where the folks that are going to be in this nonprofit group are going to raise their own funds and build up that whole area so that it's not only accessible to the public for use, but also for kids at the high school and folks that like to use it for recreation. So there is interest and there is effort, but we are working on an infrastructure now with the seawalls and so forth and trying to make, I'm just making an assumption that we're taking the step in the process of making sure our infrastructure and the shoreline is compatible with future development, because you can't really get there unless you know that, we've had presentations about flooding and what the future holds. It's not visions, but it's a forecast for what we can actually put down there and how much we can expect over time that the tide and the flows to come in, because obviously you need to know that. So we're in the infant stages as far as I can tell. There was an effort to put a business down there at the, I don't want to call it the snack shop, but, my understanding is the repair costs were so substantial that the person who wanted to do it was no longer interested. And I will say I was disappointed because being from South Boston, Sully's, as I called it, Sullivan's was the location in South Boston. They were coming down, and actually I was getting calls about it. People were excited that there was an aside of sorts, that there are people coming down. But anyway, I think that's what's happening, Mark. I think that the people that are looking at it, we have a lot of competent people. They are basically saying, let's get this infrastructure together. Let's get the foundation together so we can put more down there. I will tell you that, again, Ted had presented it to us that we should pursue this marina, and it seemed to fall apart based on the fact that we didn't have an appraisal. And to me, I wasn't sure why. Why would we get that far to vote on it and to send it to the advisory and then us not to have an appraisal? I can't give you an answer, but if it was a good option, it seemed to have fallen by the wayside. We've asked a couple of times, and I'll continue to inquire about what our plans are down there, including that.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you, Selectman Gannon. Interesting where some of the discussion went to, actually downtown, which is just a great source of just historic development. What's interesting is the modern development has been up in the South Hingham areas, and then also the shipyard. And we've got the beautiful downtown with all of the established but older infrastructure. So there are issues, but for example, we point to South Shore Bank making an investment down there. We're starting to see further investment, which is exciting, and hopefully that's going to continue. With respect to Settles Glass, I know a few years ago, there were some issues with respect to parking and trying to get some more parking there because the size of the building relative to the lot and Station Street, that's just an obvious issue over there. Again, parking is infrastructure. So these are some of the issues that are present downtown, and whether it's got to be, further shared parking analysis or whatnot. Issues like that, it's going to be very important to understand that to be able to further unlock downtown. With respect to Sully's, I'm really glad that you brought that up. Gabe Crocker and I both were working diligently with Sully's to see if we could make that work. And it had to do with the cost of the infrastructure to get there because it's on the other side of Otis Street. The extension of all of the utilities that are necessary for a restaurant just extremely costly, despite trying to come up with different solutions. So that is something that is an issue. I'm happy to report that they love Hingham, and they think that Hingham would be an absolute fantastic if they could be down here. Similarly, I had people calling up. My mother-in-law, who calls when she sees things in the Patriot Ledger every once in a while, said, "Has Jeff heard about Sullivan's? That's wonderful." And my wife got to report, yes, he's working with them, and I don't think it's going to happen. So in the future, if that's something that we could understand further, I'm just very, very bullish that that's something that could happen. Thank you again for coming in. We really appreciate you taking the time to go through and answer the questions. I think that's tremendously important. And that is an excellent point as far as figuring out who the selectmen are and calling them, talking to them, because I know that they're very interested in what Paul mentioned about open meeting law, where there are only 3 of them. If 2 of them are in a room, that's a problem. So as a result, they all have to stay away from each other on policy issues. And that's a little bit of what was behind the push a few years ago for the 5, increasing the size of the board. It's an issue that they deal with, and it's funny. Each one of them will express that to me individually. So it's not easy, and I guess it keeps you very independent. With respect to upcoming events, we pretty much took the summer off. We figured that everyone here was at the beach. And what we're going to do is we're going to sit down. We're going to come up with a date coming up in the fall. What we like to do is we like to mix in a few events that are the business kind of after dark, if you will. So an after hours event, which is what we'll be looking forward to. A lot of folks who can't make it in the morning often attend at these later in the day events. So we're putting something together for that, and you'll all find out through the email notices what's happening there. But we're looking to put together a program, perhaps downtown Hingham. So we can take a look at that. With respect to upcoming events, whether it's us or the Chamber, other business councils, on October 1st, the Chamber of Commerce has a cultural bus tour. So that's coming up quickly. That's an interesting situation. I don't know yet what they have on tap, but you actually get on a bus, go around, and you're able to see some of the breaking developments, successful developments, different projects around the South Shore. Not only is it a good opportunity to see things, but the folks who go on those trips, it's just nice to get to know people over the course of a little bit of time. So those are great events. October 7th, the Weymouth Landing Breakfast is happening, and that's going to be with Mayor Kay and Mayor Joe Sullivan from Braintree. If you don't know, there's a green light basically on a nice mixed use down for the Weymouth Landing. So a fellow Josh Katzen, who's down there, he's got plans for some of the old chair fair, also around where the El Serape is, a really nice mixed use, which folks are looking at as a huge opportunity to revitalize the landing. The Chamber of Commerce was behind that extremely early. A lot of the early planning, a lot of the impetus, especially where it's 2 different communities. It was very important that a single body, the Chamber, could advance a lot of the planning and the discussions on that. So lo and behold, X number of years later, we've got a real viable project there. So that's looking really good. October 13th, Weymouth Bank is hosting an open house, and again, that's October 13. And then October 15th is Braintree Candidates Night, business after hours at the Archdiocese, and that'll all be online, so you can take a look at that as well. October 22nd, the Chamber of Commerce has an innovation showcase. Where's that going to be, Eric?
That's going to be at the Quincy Marriott in Boston.
Quincy Marriott, and that's going to be a nice after hours.
Yeah, well, it's an afternoon event where a lot of different companies are going to showcase some of the innovations that they've done in their businesses. Really exciting. It's a different take on the usual expos that we used to do. So great event. That'll be open in the afternoon, and then there'll be an after hours that evening.
Right, and those are great opportunities because you get to meet people not only locally, but the other member communities. So that's got a very nice broad draw. If you take a look at the website, which is now the primary portal for the information, that is southshorechamber.org. So go on that, and if you don't get email notices, things of that nature, there are ways to get a hold of Eric and a lot of his ambassadors and have them so that you're being included in different events, getting invitations, and that's just really a great way. We've found, and I know a lot of our folks have over the years, it's been a really great opportunity to get to meet people, understand what people are doing, and it's an excellent opportunity to share information, share ideas, and we just find it's been extremely successful. So I want to thank everyone for attending this morning. We really appreciate it. Please keep your eyes open for our fall meeting, and again, it'll be not so early, and we'll look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.